Hello, I'm Monica Kuzminskaite. I'm a health and nutrition psychologist, and this is my podcast that I call Spoonful of Reason. And today we discuss the perception of hunger. Traditionally, hunger has been understood as a sensation signaling a lack of nutrients. Recent research shows that hunger is a complex physiological phenomenon, an active sequence of causes and effects. The subjective experience of hunger is not just a feeling of calorie deficiency. The feeling of hunger encompasses a complex set of internal physiological states and learned responses to environmental cues. The behavior that follows the sensation of hunger depends on physiological signals, information about taste and satisfaction stored in long term memory, also current emotional state, environmental conditions, and long term health goals. Therefore, hunger is difficult to measure. We cannot measure it with rulers or thermometers. Since scientific research is based on statistics from large numbers, it's also complicated by the fact that different individuals react differently to the same conditions, even when these conditions are strictly controlled in laboratories. The primary energy balance hormones remains the key players. The main function of ghrelin is to stimulate hunger and desire to eat. Leptin suppresses appetite and thus maintains balance in the system. These two hormones act as a well-coordinated mechanism that depends on a stable body weight and energy balance. Disruptions in ghrelin and leptin metabolic pathways are most often caused by a diet high in fat and sugar, which directly leads to overeating, obesity, and several eating disorders. This balance between leptin and ghrelin is also disrupted by sleep deprivation. The body's energy levels are regulated not only by hormones but also by signals from a dense network of nerves in the gut. Branches of the vagus nerve send interoceptive signals to the brain about the tension in the intestinal walls and the chemical composition of the food eaten. It is these vagus nerve signals that form the basis of satiety, reward, and food preference. One of the significant discoveries in this field is the existence of neuroendocrine cells. These cells actively respond to food substances through specialized nerve endings called neuropods, sending signals to the reward center of the brain very quickly and accurately. This discovery enables us to view the sensation of satiety in a completely different light. Mechanical and chemical impulses can reach the brain almost instantly. It explains how behavior can change immediately after eating and that both slow and fast nerve pathways control the feeling of hunger. Intestinal bacteria also play a role in regulating hunger. Substances produced by bacteria, short-chain fatty acids, have significant effect on appetite. They affect neuroendocrine cells, causing them to secrete appetite-suppressing hormones such as GLP-1 and peptide YY, while simultaneously suppressing the secretion of the hunger-stimulating hormone ghrelin. This mechanism ensures a connection between the food we eat and our feelings of hunger. If there is enough fiber in a diet, there are enough bacteria in the gut to suppress hunger and promote satiety. Gut bacteria also affect the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal or HPA axis, the body's central stress response system. This system links psychological stress and eating. Disrupted HPA activity leads to increased cortisol secretion, which promotes fat storage and increases the tendency to eat for pleasure. The subjective feeling of hunger is the result of interoception, the ability to perceive internal bodily signals. The ability to perceive the process taking place in one's body is essential in regulating emotions and controlling behavior, as well as in dealing with both metabolic and emotional challenges. According to the latest research, the perception of hunger is a complex, multifaceted signal comprising of at least 11 distinct components. Although it may seem that each feeling of hunger is highly subjective, the combination of these components are not random. In other words, the biological basis of hunger is consistent and reflects general dysfunctional and disordered eating patterns. It turns out that interoception can be trained, and this may be one way to improve your eating behavior. In one interesting study, women who had recovered from anorexia felt a specially designed vibrating pill in their intestines much less than healthy women. Still, the differences were only recorded in conscious perception. All other physiological reactions remained unchanged. It means that cognitive processing of physiological signals filters out some of the information related to feelings of hunger. It is also interesting that in cases where the signal was perceived, it was rated as significantly more unpleasant. Researchers interpret this difference as inaccurate perception. Psychological factors related to interoception, if they are strongly expressed, such as preconceived beliefs, avoidance of acknowledging internal sensations, and stomach discomfort, helped to predict future relapses in the same group of women. Neurologically, appetite is controlled by two different and functionally opposite areas of the brain. The so-called orexigenic or appetite-stimulating area is active when we are not eating. It involves certain area of the frontal lobe, the insula, hypothalamus, some parts of striatum, and the amygdala. In other words, it is a collaboration between different areas rather than a specific part of the brain. The anorexigenic or appetite suppressing structure becomes active when we're full, suppressing further eating. The lateral and posterior parts of the frontal lobe are also involved in this process. The insula plays a vital role in linking physiological state with reward experience. It is this area of the brain that is responsible for the subjective hedonic values we assign to the food we consume, and in a broader sense to other psychoactive substances. Visual information about the environment is also important in shaping feelings of hunger. We evaluate our surroundings and focus our attention in significantly different ways when we're hungry and when we're full. It does not alter our basic assessments, such as whether something is edible or not, but it significantly affects the appeal of food and physiological arousal it elicits. For example, a study found that hungry people significantly underestimate information related to healthiness of food. They actually don't look at that part of the description or evaluation, and overestimate information related to taste. It is not evidence of a lack of willpower. It is the effect of specific biochemical process. Memories also play a role, whether we have eaten this food before, whether it was enjoyable, what our current health goals are, what cultural and social norms apply in this environment, and our current emotional state. The decision-making process is based on the constant updating of information stored in our memory. If the chosen food provides the expected pleasure or energy level, this memory is reinforced and continues to influence future food choices. If the food did not meet expectations, then the memory is strengthened, which will discourage the selection of such food in the future and decrease the appetite. That is why it is essential to ensure that repeated food experiences include healthy food choices and that decisions are not made when hungry. Recent studies with GLP-1 agonists, such as semaglutide or liraglutide, which you probably have heard, show that subjective feelings of hunger do indeed change, they decrease. Actual physiological hunger is easier to identify, and we can influence eating behavior in a positive direction. Study participants also often mention that they usually stop eating when they feel full, and that emotional overeating decreases. In other words, such drugs restore the correct response to important eating stimuli, such as physiologically identifiable nutrient deficiencies, and suppress unimportant stimuli, such as emotional and other dysfunctional eating. So, hunger is a complex interplay of physiological signals, memories, attitudes, emotional states, and habits. It is possible to balance these factors, but it is not and cannot be a matter of strong willpower. The stress experience and the resulting cortisol will make you eat more and produce more fat if you try to rely on willpower only. It is a puzzle that is slowly, calmly, and confidently put together and can be solved by anyone. Today, I believe that the most important thing is to manage the environment related to food and to make decisions about food in a planned rather than spontaneous manner. Of course, everyone has their own challenges, and these are my generalizations based on my own experience and that of my clients. I'm Monica Kuzminskaite. I'm health and nutrition psychologist. I help to untangle simple and complicated issues with emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Uh, I write, I give lectures, and I provide psychological counseling. You'll find the link to register for counseling session in the comment of each post, and you will find my post on social media, either searching for my name or for keyword spoonful of reason. Drop me a message on social media, or uh, yeah, stick with social media. I hope that your food is tasty. Wishing peace to you all.